Hart's primary and secondary rules. Introduction. Hart, a leading jurist of the analytical school, explained the nature of law in his famous book The Concept of Law. He criticized John Austin's command theory and introduced the idea that a legal system is a union of primary and secondary rules. According to Hart, both types of rules are necessary for a modern legal system. Primary rules. Hart explained primary rules in his theory of law. Primary rules are rules that impose duties and obligations on people. They tell individuals what they must do or must not do in society. These rules directly control human behavior. Examples include criminal laws, do not steal, do not murder, traffic rules, and rules of contract. Primary rules are necessary for maintaining order and discipline in society. However, Hart pointed out that a legal system based only on primary rules is incomplete and needs secondary rules. Primary rules are rules that impose duties or obligations on individuals. They tell people what they must do or must not do. Examples: criminal law rules, do not steal, do not murder. Traffic rules. Contractual duties. Primary rules regulate human conduct directly. Problems of a system with only primary rules. According to H. Hart, early societies had legal systems based only on primary rules, which imposed duties on people. Although these rules regulated behavior, such a system was incomplete and ineffective. Hart pointed out that without additional rules to identify, change, and enforce laws, a legal system faces several serious problems. Therefore, a system consisting only of primary rules suffers from uncertainty, rigidity, and inefficiency. Hart pointed out three main defects. Uncertainty, no way to know which rules are valid. According to H. Hart, a system with only primary rules suffers from the problem of uncertainty. There is no clear method to identify which rules are valid laws and which are not. People may disagree about the existence, scope, or meaning of rules. This creates confusion and lack of uniformity in society. Hart said this problem is solved by the rule of recognition, a secondary rule. Static nature, rules cannot be changed easily. According to H. Hart, a system with only primary rules is static or rigid. There is no proper method to change, modify, or remove old rules when society changes. Rules remain fixed even if they become outdated or unsuitable. This prevents the legal system from adapting to new social needs. Hart said this problem is solved by the rule of change, a secondary rule. Inefficiency, no authority to enforce or apply rules. According to H. Hart, a legal system with only primary rules is inefficient. There is no authority to interpret, apply, or enforce the rules when disputes arise. People may take the law into their own hands, leading to disorder. There are no courts or officials to decide violations. Hart said this problem is solved by the rule of adjudication, a secondary rule. To solve these problems, Hart introduced secondary rules. Secondary rules. Secondary rules are rules about rules themselves. They provide methods to identify, change, and apply primary rules. According to H. Hart, a legal system cannot function properly with only primary rules. To overcome the problems of uncertainty, rigidity, and inefficiency, Hart introduced secondary rules. Secondary rules are rules about rules. They provide methods to identify valid laws, change laws, and decide disputes. These rules give structure and authority to a modern legal system and make it effective and organized. Hart classified secondary rules into three types. Rule of recognition. This rule helps identify which rules are valid laws in a legal system. The rule of recognition is a type of secondary rule explained by H. Hart. It helps identify which rules are valid laws in a legal system. This rule provides criteria to decide whether a rule is legally binding or not. For example, in India, laws passed by Parliament, provisions of the Constitution, and judicial precedents are recognized as valid law. The rule of recognition removes uncertainty by clearly identifying what counts as law. It is essential for the proper functioning of a modern legal system. Example: in India, laws passed by Parliament and the Constitution are recognized as valid law. Rule of change. This rule provides a method to make new laws or change existing laws. The rule of change is a type of secondary rule given by Hart. It provides a method to make new laws and modify or repeal old laws. This rule gives power to certain authorities, such as the legislature, to change the law. The rule of change removes the static and rigid nature of a system based only on primary rules. It allows the legal system to adapt to social and economic changes. Thus, it ensures flexibility and progress in law. Example: legislative procedures for passing or amending laws. Rule of adjudication. This rule gives power to courts and judges to interpret and apply law. The rule of adjudication is a type of secondary rule explained by Hart. It gives authority to courts and judges to decide disputes and determine whether a rule has been violated. This rule also lays down procedures for deciding cases. The rule of adjudication removes the problem of inefficiency in a system based only on primary rules. It ensures proper enforcement of law and peaceful settlement of disputes. Thus, it is essential for an effective legal system. It also decides who has authority to settle disputes. Importance of primary and secondary rules. The concept of primary and secondary rules, given by Hart, is important for understanding a modern legal system. Primary rules regulate human behavior by imposing duties and obligations. Secondary rules provide methods to identify valid laws, change laws, and resolve disputes. Together, these rules remove the problems of uncertainty, rigidity, and inefficiency. They make the legal system organized, flexible, and effective. Thus, the union of primary and secondary rules explains how law works in a modern and developed society. They remove uncertainty, rigidity, and inefficiency. They make the legal system flexible and organized. They explain how modern legal systems function effectively. Conclusion. According to Hart, a complete legal system is a combination of primary and secondary rules. Primary rules regulate behavior, while secondary rules provide structure and authority to the legal system. Hart's theory improved analytical jurisprudence by offering a more realistic and practical explanation of law than earlier theories.